Hi everyone, this is Grace, and today I'll be walking you through how I made this epic star set. So let's go. Actually, the name of this is Superstars, but I don't think that's going to make it on to the title of the YouTube video. But I always like to come up with fun names for my sets, especially my class sets, which this was originally made for a beginner class. As with all of my beginner classes now, I always do, not always, but typically one shape and one consistency. Hallelujah! This one, obviously really easy because we're just doing 3 colors, red, white, and blue. We're doing one consistency, which is my thick flood. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out the link, or not the link in my bio, good Lord. What platform am I on? This is YouTube. Go check out my homepage for my consistencies video because I am a little weird. And I have kind of different names for my floods. That's fine. Roll with it. So that first one was really simple. There are 12 different designs for this set, and I wanted to do some that are a little different and then some that are super classic because, like, we always need the classic designs, okay? Everyone needs to learn the classic designs. We will get to those. I guess the first one was like kind of classic, but not really. The zigzag stripe. This one, we're having fun. This is the one cookie in the set that looks most like a flag. I wanted more like just red, white, and blue fun theme-esques playing off of like the stars and stripes. So this is a flag that actually reminds me of, I'm imagining these like star hanging things that you could get from like, oh my God, Home Goods or that kind of thing. And they're metal. I don't know. This reminds me of that. So this is all wet on wet. Essentially, like the polka dots are like a traditional wet on wet concept, but then this is like wet next to wet. So we are not letting the previous sections dry because we want them to all be flat together. Now you could totally leave this cookie as is, but you know me, I like to go extra. And in this case, I had to do a crackle, and well, I guess there are 2 different crackles in this set. What I like about doing the crackle on this one is that chances are, like, your polka dots are not going to be perfect and, like, your lines are not going to be perfect. Even look at mine. Like, mine are not perfect either. But I also knew that I'd be crackling this. And the crackle, like, it doesn't disguise everything. But it does distract from any imperfections in your execution, which I'm a big fan of. So, before you crackle, you wait like 10 to 20 minutes. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. That tool I'm using is just the scribe I'm using for this set, which you can get on Amazon. You want something with a rounded end to it. So this next one, I don't actually know yet. There's a lot of wet on wet in this set, which is very common for my beginner sets because, like, there's only so much you can do with one consistency. So just keep that in mind, friends. But I think I make it work. Like, the amount of variety and texture that you can still accomplish with one consistency is really quite impressive. And I got 12 different designs out of the set with 3 colors. So pat selves on back. This one is a nod to a bunting, you know, like buntings that are hung on fire trucks for parades and that kind of stuff. So we're working fast. For the video, I did, oh, that is a dirty bag. Real life people. For the video, I did everything from one bag. So all of these lines are done from my flood bag. In the video, in the class video that I teach, I also teach an option of doing a set of smaller bags, which just gives you more control over your icing, and you can do a smaller tip if you want like more fine details. The key to those pulls there is to make sure you're cleaning off your scribe after every pull, and you start your pull before that blue line, okay? This next one, I think, is my 2-layer blue. I did my best to make sure that there were still some like 2-layer designs with this set. You'll notice that I am not flooding all the way to the edge. That is the importante. Okay, my friends. especially as a beginner. Just give yourself the grace, no pun intended, to not flood all the way to the edge. No cookie is going to be perfectly flat. So if you don't flood all the way to the edge, like give it like an eighth of an inch-ish. There will just be room for it naturally to spread because that's what it's going to do, okay? So clearly this one spread a lot. The thinner your icing, the more it's going to spread. You're going to let that crust for like, I don't know, 15, 30 minutes. And then we're piping this star on top. I went by the guidance of the edges of the blue, not by like what the star should look like. So if you look at my star, it looks a little wonky, but whatever. Let that red crust for like 15 minutes and then go in with your dots. I'm a very visual person, so I went in with like the bigger spaces, and then I go in with filling in the difference, if that makes sense. Just a wee little dot. And it's possible these could crater. I'm not gonna lie. It's possible, but like it happens. So next up, and I just want to say on the crater front, like as a beginner, craters are going to happen. Even as an advanced cookier, expert cookier, whatever you want to call me, I still get craters. Like it still happens. So yeah. I just had a brain fart. All right. So we are doing, I don't know what we're doing. This is wet on wet. Oh, okay. So this ends up looking kind of like plaid, but my inspiration for this one are the is it gingham? Like, you know, the plastic picnic tablecloths that like everyone has, the disposable ones that are usually red and white. Sometimes they're blue and white. That was my inspiration for this. And we do the first layer you see there with wet on wet. We let that crust for like 15 to 30 minutes, and then we do a second layer for an added layer of dimension. And this is my nod to like the crisscross layering of that gingham. Most cookiers would do that with an airbrush. Obviously, we're not going to use an airbrush for a beginner class, but also, guys, I don't even own an airbrush. I've used an airbrush like 3 times ever, and it was in classes. Not a fan of airbrushes. I think airbrushes are a great tool if you're doing a lot of volume, but obviously I don't do a huge amount of volume. So here we are. Also not sure which one this one is going to be. I think this is like the swirly doodad. A lot of my designs, I do realistic, but I also like to do playful and just like nods to the theme. So playing off of, I guess, like white lines and blue. This is one of my new favorite kind of designs. I actually did this same exact thing for the peppermint of my beginner Christmas class last year. But I love showing you that you can do the exact same quote unquote design on a different shape in a different color palette, and it's going to look totally different in a different context. Is there a real point to this one? I don't know. I just think it looks pretty. Like it's white and blue and it's cool. So that's this one. Moving on to the next design. What have we got here? Lord, I don't know. We're starting off with white. Let's talk about the colors. So red, white, and blue. I do always color my white icing with some white food coloring. You can offset any yellow in your white icing with the tiniest bit of purple. I've personally never actually done that because I'm too terrified to. The real experts, that's how they do it. And generally, anyway, with beginners, like I recommend using white just because it's easier. That said, you don't have to use white food coloring. Like just let your white be what it's going to be. Especially if you're using my recipe and using lemon juice instead of, you know, like brown vanilla extract, then like it's not going to be that off-white. So it's important to let this base layer crust a bit more, maybe like an hour, because you're going to be putting pressure on the top and you certainly don't want to squish it. So that's all the same flood consistency. I just did these dots and I'm using just a kitchen knife to spread it out. Ideally, you'll get it in one go like I just did there, but like if you have to go back again, try to line up the colors as best you can. The joining of the colors will kind of smudge a bit more, which is fine. It's a look, but I guess I got it in one go was good enough. All right, let's see what this one is. Okay, for the red, so I would encourage you to use just a gel coloring. It's easier, like Chef Master or Americolor. I would also encourage you to start your red at least 24 hours in advance of using your icing, if not 2 days. This will give the icing more time to develop. The red will get darker. It's super easy to use way too much red food coloring. I would also encourage you to just be okay with it not being a super saturated red. Like this ended up being a pretty great red. It could be even more saturated, but when you go on the more saturated end, you risk using too much gel food coloring, which is going to make it dry funny. It's going to make it taste bad. Like it's going to probably cause color bleed. Like it's not worth it. I always encourage beginners, like, it's okay if it's not quite a bright red, like, it's red, white, and blue. Everyone knows what you're talking about here. So I love this design. I actually did this design with my Funky Flowers beginner class. Again, a great example, like, do the exact same design in a different shape. I think actually the other one had like 6 points. This one has 5. Can I count 5? Yes. Again, important thing with these scribe pulls, clean off your scribe after every pull, okay? And make sure you're pulling from the outside of the line. That's what gives it the nice, beautiful effect there. Love that for us. Gonna take a sip of my tea. Okay, this one, I think, yes. So my haphazard outlining is because I'm about to come in with a knife and just kind of smush it out. I probably could have used a little bit more icing, but whatever. All we're doing here is covering the edge of the cookie. So this is another great way to like show texture and dimension with just one consistency is to do some sort of cutout. Normally I do a cutout in the center of a design, but this time I just felt called and it felt like the star was appropriate to do this kind of cutout effect, but on the edge. So we're just covering the edge kind of as best as possible. I'm sure once I was done with this off camera, I probably like zhuzhed it a little more. Cause y'all, it's really hard to, normally I pick up the cookie and that's how I do this kind of spreading. It's really hard to do it flat on a surface. And we let that crust for, I don't know, 15 minutes and then go on top. Giving an extra girth around the edge, like maybe more like 1/4 of an inch, knowing it's going to spread out and you want there to be an exposed edge because that was the whole point of doing the blue, right, my friends? This one is going to be crackled. I actually did this design in several different color combinations, so you could do this in any color combination strikes your fancy. I just felt like I could use a little bit more of the white and blue, I guess. And then let that sit for about 10 to 20 minutes. It really depends on how humid your environment is, how thin your icing is, how long you need to wait. I usually set a timer for 10 minutes to start. You are truly cracking the surface of the icing. If you're getting indentations, that just means your icing is not quite dry enough. And if you get icing on the end of your tool, that means you have gone too far because you are not penetrating the surface. You are just cracking the surface, hence the name crackle. Okay, what have we got next? I wonder if this is the 2-layer red. Okay, so we talked about red, we talked about white. In terms of blue coloring, I used Chef Master Royal Blue. I prefer Royal Blue in this kind of scenario as opposed to Sky Blue. Sky Blue is, this blue is more, I don't know if it's considered a more pure blue, but it's more like in the direction of a baby blue, which I like. This is the 2-layer. So, okay, we let that red base crust for about 30 minutes, and then we're just piping lines on top. Nothing crazy. You'll notice that I do have a somewhat of a motif here of going from like lower left to upper right with a few of the designs. I try to do that with any like shape series set I'm doing when there's a lot of different designs, just to keep some sort of cohesion in the design of the set. This is fun, friends. Which one is this? You'll notice obviously that we are doing a one consistency outline and flood. That means we are outlining and flooding with the same bag. I'm not doing any magic tricks with my editing here. You are just changing the pressure. So to outline with a flood consistency takes barely any pressure on the bag, but then to flood, you're like opening a difficult pickle jar. That's what you're doing, okay? This is another wet on wet. So I actually found two different ways to do this. In the film, in the video, obviously, I'm doing it with even lines, but it's actually really cool if you kind of taper those red lines into the blue. I didn't think about doing that until after I filmed the samples. And then this is another fun way to do a wet on wet drag, but you're not pulling your scribe out of the icing. Obviously, you're just keeping it in the icing, which in a way is easier because it's faster and you don't have to worry about constantly cleaning off the tip of your scribe. So if I could hazard a guess, I think this is the polka dot. I know a lot of people, not a lot of people, that's dramatic, but some people have been like, why polka dot again? Like, people have taken the classes, and the thing is, like, designs and techniques with royal icing are repeated over and over again, just in different packages, right? And the only way you get better is by doing over and over and over again. I mean, it will take you months or years to like really get good at something, at least with royal icing. So the key to successful polka dots, a couple of things. You want to place the icing on top of the surface, not like inject the icing. Oh my goodness, what else can I say? Oh no, it's moving so fast. I think the placement of polka dots is really important. They're not going to be all even unless you're a freak of nature and you're just amazing. My polka dots are not all the same size. It's okay. All right. So I think that's it. I really enjoyed walking you through this set. I mean, 12 designs, one consistency, one shape, 3 colors. Like, what could be better? As always, I hope you learned a thing or two. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I hope that my voice was soothing enough today. Had a little bit more energy today than usual. I don't know. I'm excited. So thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or night, wherever you are. And I hope you have a sweet one. And I'll talk to you next time. Okay, bye.